The NFC North isn't just a division, it's a battlefield. Historic rivalries, passionate fan bases, and cold weather football. Four teams with one goal: win the North. Today, we're breaking down the Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, and Bears. Oh my! Where'd that come from? Anyway, we'll cover their biggest offseason moves, their strengths, their weaknesses, and the X factors that could define their season. And of course, you also get my prediction on who will win the division. But don't forget, and stay tuned to the very end. Our co-host Hammy also has his predictions to give. And let's see if his nose is as sharp as his football knowledge. Good. Never know. So settle in, grab your favorite game day snacks, and let's talk some football, baby. This is Pigskin Playpen.
Oh, it's so good. Life is just a Monday.
Starting with the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions actually made a couple of changes during the offseason. They brought in Isaiah Pacheco, Teddy Bridgewater, and Tyler Conklin. They let go David Montgomery, Khalif Raymond, Taylor Decker, and Graham Glasgow. And it's those two last pieces that I want to talk about. I usually start with strengths first for a team, but I'm going to be talking about their weaknesses first. The last two, Taylor Decker and Graham Glasgow, were offensive linemen. And the Lions are only bringing back two players from their starting lineup in their offensive line from last year back to 2026. So they'll have three brand new people on the offensive line. It was a strength last year for them. But that said, getting younger is actually kind of the key. So, and right now, Graham Glasgow was in his 30s, and his play had dropped slightly. His gameplay had dropped. Taylor Decker, I'm not so sure of, to be honest. So I'm not going to say anything on that. But they did draft Blake Miller, an offensive tackle, who's going to be competing for a starting role on the offensive line this year. So that's something that you want to look at. You have Penei Sewell, who's the left tackle right now, who anchors that. So Miller would potentially be the right tackle. But this is something that it takes a little while for the offensive line to gel. You're hoping that they actually gel during OTAs and mini camp, but a lot of that actually doesn't get to everything gelling, getting everybody on the same page until about 6 to 8 weeks into the season. So that said, that can be an issue if you look at it at the beginning of the season. And it's something to watch, and especially for fantasy football owners. A lot of people I know will be drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. And if he's available, you draft Jahmyr Gibbs no matter what. The same thing goes for Jared Goff. Yes, everybody wants to keep Jared Goff upright, but temper expectations initially at the start. But I can foresee that things can actually smooth out mid-season. So their strengths, in all honesty, are their offensive playmakers. From people like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who last year caught 117 balls for 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns. Then you have Jameson Williams on the opposite end, catching 65 balls for 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns. Also, Jahmyr Gibbs last year ran for 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns. They're a great group, and not just the wide receivers and the running backs, but you also have your tight end Sam Laporta. And Laporta had about 489 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. So he could be a good red zone threat. So if you have a chance for those fantasy owners, I would actually pick him up, but probably in the later rounds. He'll still be available. I would personally say in the fourth or fifth rounds. Now, their X factor for this team, in my opinion, would have to be Jameson Williams. If you get Jameson Williams going and get him moving, that will leave it leaves a lot left open because everybody's will be looking at Jameson Williams to cover him, which means that you may have Amon-Ra St. Brown available. If they decide to actually cover both, you still have Jahmyr Gibbs or Isaiah Pacheco catching balls out of the backfield, or Sam Laporta cutting right into the middle of the field. No matter what they do, they have a plan for everyone. And now we get to the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings did actually a pretty good job this year. They actually added in a couple of people, most notably Kyler Murray, the quarterback, to compete for the starting quarterback position, which, in all honesty, that's gonna happen. The second addition that they made was Jawan Jennings to build up their receiving corps, which actually is a great option to have because you already have a great receiving whiteout in Justin Jefferson. So, on that note, the departures that they had were Javon Hargrave, you had Jonathan Allen, Jonathan Grenard, and Harrison Smith. Now, Harrison Smith was kind of for the fan base, I'm sure, a huge hit, only because he had been with the team for 14 years. He had played at a very high level. But I understand Minnesota when trying to get younger, and 37, something could happen and he wouldn't be able to play that entire time. So that part I can completely understand. They dodged a little bullet, by trading away Jonathan Grenard. Sorry about that. All of a sudden, I couldn't even remember his name. And when I say that, the production that Jonathan Grenard had as an outside linebacker was fantastic. That's what you really needed in such. However, during OTAs and minicamp, I don't know which in that time frame, but he strained his pectoral muscle. So he won't even be on the field week 1 of this season so far. for the Eagles. So it's almost like dodging a little bullet. Hopefully, he can get back to normal for the Eagles' sake. Hopefully, for the Vikings, hopefully he's out for a while and it justifies your position to trade him. In any case, their strengths with the Minnesota Vikings is their receiving core. They have arguably one of the best wide receivers in the game today in Justin Jefferson, averaging 1,400 yards, about 8 touchdowns a game. This cat is great. He has in his going on 6th year this year, he has not dropped below 1,000 yards receiving. In addition to Justin Jefferson, you have Jordan Addison, which is a capable, competent wide receiver 2 position who averages about 600 or who had 680 yards last year and 7 touchdowns, if I remember correctly. I'll let you know if that's incorrect. In any case, by adding Jawan Jennings to the mix, this is phenomenal. You have your 1, 2, 3 punch. Now, that said, the weakness of this team right now, I once thought it was the quarterback position because I really wasn't sure how Kyler Murray would set up perfectly since he played so poorly last year on this year with the Minnesota Vikings. However, hearing from Justin Jefferson, it seems to be that he actually does like Kyler Murray as a quarterback. So that's a promising aspect of things. Their main thing also that I have to think about is their edge rushing. And their edge rushing could be improved. But with a player such as Dallas Turner on your team who had who had who eight not tackles, 8 sacks last year. I think it's actually if he moves because he is a third-year player coming on this year. I think he can actually make strides to actually become that edge presence that they actually need. Plus, with the defense, you have Brian Flores, who is a fantastic coach. You let him go. In all honesty, I think I could see, hopefully, that Brian Flores could be a head coaching candidate next year. But that will be coming along. We'll talk about that at the end of the season, see where everything happens. So we'll get to that part. In any case, this is actually the great this so far this has been a pretty good offseason for the Vikings. And I do believe that they're going to be in the game for an NFC title. Do I think that they're going to hit the playoffs? Yeah, they could. Do I think they're going to hit the Super Bowl? Hold your horses on that one. But you're going to make strides. It all depends on what you can do in the next couple of years because you're building up the pieces now. So, just giving you guys a little of my info here with that. The X factor for this team would have to be Kevin O'Connell. A lot of my X factors have so far have been coaches. except for the Lions. But I believe that this is actually that he is the X factor. If he can get Kyler Murray going on all cylinders and throwing those short to intermediate passes continuously and then hitting the long ball to Justin Jefferson, it's going to be fantastic for this team. I actually do have hope that the Vikings are going to make strides. That said, only time will tell. Now we're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers added Zaire Alexander, Javon Hargrave, and Sky Moore. Biggest upgrade. Well, not just upgrades, additions. Now, as far as departures are concerned, you had Romeo Dobbs leave. You had Quay Walker leave. You had Rashawn Gary leave. And of course, you had Malik Willis leave. Malik Willis, not too worried about. Packers already have a great quarterback in Jordan Love. And this is where I'm actually having a little struggle here. Now, they did pick up Zaire Alexander, which is actually, in my opinion, I think it was a great pickup. Because last year he tackled, well, he had 125 total tackles. He had I think one forced fumble. I mean, it was good. It was good production that you needed. But, well, let me at least talk about this first. They have a very good front seven. With Javon Hargrave in there, he's a big body in there in the middle. And that's what you really need. You have Luke Van Ness, you have Micah Parsons, you have Zaire Alexander. You actually have a good core, and especially with Devontae Wyatt in there too. But you have no pass rush. Micah Parsons is the only one. Now, with Rashawn Gary, you had Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons together, and Rashawn Gary left. So really, you're only down to the production of Micah Parsons. Now, I could be completely wrong on this. I thought maybe Javon Hargrave would have actually have provided some type of pass rush influence. And he did a few years ago in 2023, when he had 7 sacks. Since then, his production has declined. He had 4 sacks the year after. He had 3.5 last year. So I don't like that. I like a big pass rush in my defense. I want to get after that quarterback. I want to make him uncomfortable. But when some of the players that you had last year leave, it makes it difficult. So that said, I don't like it. I just don't like it. Another issue that I may have with the Packers is their wide receiver core. Romeo Dobbs left. He went to New England. So now you have Christian Parker and Jaden Reed. Both combined only one, they combined together, they completed one season. Meaning, of the two players, of those two wide receivers, one of them completed a full season, and that wasn't last year. It was in 2024, and that was Jaden Reed. Christian Watson had never completed a full 17-game season. He had always gotten hurt. And that's what happened. And both last year got hurt. It and to boot, they didn't draft any wide receivers this year. Nor did they pick any up in free. Well, they did pick one in free agency. I'm sorry, one. And that was Sky Moore. And I've seen Sky Moore. Not really fond of Sky Moore. I don't think he's great. So I worry about Jordan Love and who he's actually going to throw to. And if the same people that he's going to be throwing to are going to stay with him the entire year. It boggles my mind. And please, if I'm incorrect on this stage, please let me know. I want to be wrong. I want to see the Packers. I want to see great games from everybody. But I can't. When I see the production coming out of everybody, it makes me sick. People getting hurt all the time. You have no backups. What are you going to do? And you trade away your only other piece that could work, and that's Romeo Dobbs. And even he had some injury issues. But I digress. This is not right. So I am worried about the Packers. In this division, they're going to get steamrolled. Now, they do have a good front seven, so their defense could end up actually helping the offense out. And they do have a good run game with Josh Jacobs. He doesn't have any off-season issues. Even still, all I want to do is say the Packers, what are you doing? And I'm thinking maybe there are other holes that I'm not actually noticing because I need to maybe I need to do my more research on the Packers to find out what they actually needed to do more of. But I don't like this. I don't like what I'm seeing right now. And now we're talking about the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears are very active this offseason. They ended up bringing in players such as Kobe Bryant, Khalif Raymond, and Devin Bush. Now, Devin Bush was the actual best acquisition that they could have actually had picked up because they did let Tremaine Edmonds leave during the offseason. So they replaced Edmonds with Bush. And that itself is a pretty 1-to-1 ratio match. He'll get a little bit more upside in Bush as he does, as according to last year's stats anyway. He had a very good season where Tremaine Edmonds had 112 total tackles. Devin Bush had 124 tackles. Plus, Bush also had a forced fumble, 3 interceptions, I believe. So you're looking at a little bit more production, but pretty close to what Tremaine Edmonds actually brought in. Now, as far as other departures, besides Tremaine Edmonds, they did get rid of or traded away DJ Moore to the Buffalo Bills. And they also lost Kevin Byard. But with the loss of Kevin Byard, they brought in Kobe Bryant, so that is also another wash. So when you look at this team, you're looking at them from a perspective of very young, a very young, youth, vibrant team. So what you want to see out of this year, they have great wide receivers, and Rome Odunze and Luther Burden III. I want to see them mature even more this coming up year than they already have. Now, on the flip side, what I like to see them do more of is actually I want more consistency with the pass rush. It seemed like the Chicago pass rush was just waiting for Montez Sweat to get double teamed before they were able to get in there and actually create sacks of their own. Sometimes that's good, but you can't depend on one person. It's a team effort. You have to all be at the same, going after it at the same time. So that's a little sticking point that I have. And I just talked about one of the other items as far as the maturity goes on their pass catchers. They're wonderful pass catchers. Even Colston Loveland is a great pass catcher as a tight end. But it's getting that maturity and getting that quick, getting them mature quickly. And if they can do this within, let's say, by week 3 of the season of this year's season, I think they can actually go far and actually compete. And not only compete, but I believe that the Chicago Bears can win this division. They're young enough, but that's a plus, but it's also a concern as well because they are young. I'd rather have a good mix between the young talent and veterans. And you do have some veteran talent on there, such as DeAndre Swift, but you want to have more of that going in. So that said, let's see what the actual Bears can do this year. All right, everybody. Now it's time for predictions. However, I will have to say before I get to my predictions, I realized something, and that when I was talking about the Chicago Bears, I didn't actually provide an X factor. Well, that X factor itself would be Ben Johnson. The same that I thought was the X factor for the Bears last year. If he can get everything moving, that's perfect. So that said, wanted to make sure that was brought up before I get into my predictions. For the NFC North, it is going to be a battle, in my opinion, between two teams. Lions and Bears. Oh my. Huh, maybe that's the reason why. But within those two teams, I do believe the Lions are going to take the division. That is my prediction. Now, Hammy, what is your prediction for the NFC North? Well, there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you did, if there's anything that you want to talk about in regards or comment on, please do so. If you like this comment, please like and subscribe to this channel. I would be so greatly appreciated for that. But thank you very much for your time. I hope I brought a little humor into it. And I'll see you again in the next episode. Take care.
It's so good.